Let me ask you this, Senator, because you are on the Senate Finance Committee, which means you are going to be taking the testimony of Janet Yellen on Thursday. Of course, today she's speaking to the House Financial Services Committee. What do you want to hear from Janet Yellen? What's most important to you, Senator?
Boy, there's a lot. I've met with her recently. You know, there's some, first of all, when she comes before the Banking Committee, I think it is, the first question I'm going to have for her is the balance sheet. You know, the Fed's had this $4.5 trillion balance sheet for a while now. There's talk about reducing that now to about $2.5 at about $50 billion a month. That's fine. But, Maria, as you've talked about on your show, we have some $6 trillion in the private sector not at work in this economy, between the Russell 1000 balance sheets, between what's stuck on the bank balance sheets of the small banks and community banks because of Dodd-Frank, and then, of course, this insane nonsense we have of unrepatriated profits overseas because of our repatriation law. $6 trillion. If we can release some of that, then I can see the balance sheet being reduced at the Fed. That's number one. Number two is the rate environment. Right now we've had a 100 basis point increase over the last 15 months in the Fed fund rate. That's a big number. That's $200 billion of new interest every year. And oh, by the way, the other question I have is 60%. Now, this is a question for the Treasury, but 60% of our $20 trillion debt, Maria, is 3 years or less. The duration is less than 3 years. Contrast that with the UK, who went long over the last 8 years, and theirs is 48% longer than 20 years. We've got some serious issues with the structural debt of this country.
Yeah, you make a really good point, because earlier we were talking with one of your colleagues in the House, and he said, look, I want to know why rates are going higher when I look at my district in Tennessee, people are worried about their jobs. Things are moving slowly. So do you also worry that as the Fed raises interest rates, it's going to stop the traction that we've seen so far in this economic recovery?
I'm worried about that, and I'm also worried about if we don't get our job done here in the Senate and in Congress and get this tax deal done this year, we could be facing a less than optimistic environment next year. Right now, what we have, Maria, as you've talked about on your show when you have these experts on, like you have today, the economy wants to turn. Consumer confidence is at a 13-year high.
Right.
I've studied that for a long time, and I have to tell you, it's fragile, though, because household debt is now back up to 100% of household income, just where it was before 2009. So this is a fragile potential turnaround, and we need to see that the work in Congress move. But also, we need to see the Fed be very careful. They're working on one number, and I disagree with this. I'm no economist, but I know when you only focus on unemployment right now and ignore the underemployed and the people who have physically dropped out of the workforce, then you're missing the bigger picture that I hear every week when people are asking me, David, is there anything Congress can do to help me get my hours up? I mean, this is one of the unintended consequences of Obamacare.
Yeah,
it is. The CBO found that the ACA reduced labor participation.
Yeah,
so even the CBO found that out, that it hasn't worked.
What's the corporate rate, Senator, that you want to see in a tax package? Because we all know that corporate rates are going to come down. They should come down. That's going to move the needle on economic growth. So what's your priority in terms of a corporate rate?
Look, in my opinion, depending on what we do with the deductions, I think if we get in the 20% range, we'll be competitive with the rest of the world. It's still a premium to do business in the United States, and we should demand a little premium, but we've got to get competitive with the rest of the world. The bigger thing that we also have to do at the same time is eliminate this insane repatriation tax. And that's one of the problems I have with the way the CBO scores this. And so we're moving on those right now. We're going to try to enact the president's package on the individual side and give people a break there. But the big news here is to put American workers back in competition again with the rest of the world by creating a level playing field, which is what this president ran on.
And that's why you want 15%.
Well, he wants 15, and listen, that's an opening bid. If we get in the 20% range, Maria, we'll be competitive with the rest of the world, depending on what we do with the deductions.
That's what I was looking for. What's your number? Senator, good to see you, sir. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys.
We'll see you soon. Senator Perdue joining us.